Sleep is like your phone's charging system. You don't try harder to charge a phone. You fix the charger, the cable, the outlet, the apps, the temperature, and that's the same with sleep.
Eye tracking to help you get into deeper sleep. As your eyes are closed, you go side to side, clockwise, counterclockwise, zone in to your nose, and then try to zone out, zone back into your nose, taking a breath in, and then breath out.
We actually call it a freeze state. You have the fight, flight, or freeze. And so most people who have been in a fight or flight for so long get in a freeze state.
What would we expect that AI would spit out, but then also what are potentially certain things that it could be missing?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Functional Code. We are excited to bring you guys today another episode. We are going to be talking today about sleep. However, we've talked about sleep in the past. This is different. This is one of our AI series episodes. We're going to be talking about how AI is impacting sleep, making it so much easier to track, understand the ways we can improve sleep from a metric standpoint, and other ways that sleep tracking is going to change the future of healthcare. As always, I am Dr. Addy.
And I am Dr. Jace. Yeah, it's going to be fun diving in the mixture of AI with sleep, with even as we're going into some of the overviews of what we're talking about today. It's crazy the perspective of when we first went through half of this stuff, that we didn't even take into consideration AI.
Yep.
How fast it's hitting and smacking us all in the face right now.
Yeah.
It is incredible.
It's crazy to think we didn't have this technology not even maybe a year or two ago. At least not mainstream.
Yes.
Mainstream use. So Doc, like when you started tracking your sleep with your AI wearable, which is what we're going to talk a lot about today, certain AI wearables, trackables, things that improve sleep tracking, other metrics. So when you did that, did you see correlative change, actually contributable change to your sleep? And what were some of the things that you were able to change that helped it?
Yeah. Wearing the Whoop specifically, I think I've had for 5 years or something like that. Early on, I started messing with timing of sleep, water intake, and going to bed, certain meals and foods, going to bed, and even start picking up trends like, for example, summer in Arizona being very warm. It's hard for me to sleep, and my sleep score definitely diminished because of that. So I had to change up the internal temp in the house. Then started noticing improvements, so kept that into the equation. And even in recent too, started doing a little bit of a detox cleanse, started eating way more healthier, pure, like whole foods, taking out sugars, diminishing the carbs, and the sleep score was like 99%.
Dude, that's awesome.
And trying to work that instead of some processed foods closer to sleep. So try to keep in what trends have worked for me based on sleep scores, based on also how I feel. And then also adapt over time based on seasons of the year, other circumstances that come up. But
for sure.
Have you started playing around with your Whoop in that regard?
For sure. I've used Whoop twice now. This is the second time I've used it now for a year. The first time I definitely found a very quick change to my sleep increase, not only my score, my improvement in my quality of life when I was tracking all of it. I noticed the certain things that I could track that did a great job of just algorithmically telling me what I need to do different or better, which was helpful. Caffeine drastically reduces my ability to sleep very well. So that was just one that I've always tracked and known that I respond negatively to. But one thing that I always enjoy seeing is the time that you think you're in bed to the actual time of sleep that you get is so much different than what you think. And I know I even use this concept with patients too, but I'll be in bed for about 8 hours, but I might only get six and a half quality hours of sleep. And most people, they go to bed, they're like, okay, it's 8 o'clock, I'm gonna get up at 6. All right, I'm doing the math. That means I'm gonna get 10 hours of sleep. But that's just completely not the truth. There are just times where we intermittently wake in the night that we don't understand that we do. Maybe we just wake up in the middle of the night for no reason, go back to bed, we lose 20 to 30 minutes there. You don't start to realize what quality of sleep you're losing when we have those habits. That was the biggest thing for me to say. The only way that I'm gonna very heavily move that needle is time in bed. for me.
Yes.
Time in bed is my biggest changer of how much quality of sleep I have, because I don't fall asleep very quickly, and I tend to awaken frequently in night. And I've always tried to improve that, but that's been tough for me. I tend to wake up more frequently, which I'm working on it. But if I'm in bed 10 hours, I'll sleep 8 hours.
Interesting.
That's
Makes sense.
That's my cycle. And so I'm curious for patients out there too that feel that they've been in bed for 8 hours, but they maybe don't feel like they're rested. Should they be maybe in bed 9 hours, 10? And what does that change as far as their quality of life and their feeling?
Especially to optimize if they know that low-hanging fruit or low-hanging light helps for the circadian rhythm, and some of these other tools that we'll get into. And fascinating enough, I came across Andrew Huberman, like a shorts post from him discussing different eye tracking to help you get into deeper sleep. He was showing it with the eyes closed. And to walk through briefly, as your eyes are closed, you go side to side, clockwise, counterclockwise. Try to zone in more to like your nose, and then try to zone out as your eyes are closed. Zone back into your nose, taking a breath in, and then breath out. And it almost like breaks apart that your mind's racing aspect of things. I put that actually into ChatGPT and asked it, what do you think were certain things that could improve upon this protocol? And it told me that to start with the eyes opened and then end with the eyes closed.
Okay.
So I don't know what the difference is.
So maybe like a greater neurological change from one to the other.
Yeah, and it makes sense, like with eyes being part of the brain that is exposed to the world, that if you can get that on the same page as turning some circuits off, it can help wind you down a little bit better.
I think eye tracking is a very powerful tool. I've used it in practice for patients with cognitive issues and severe mental decline, those kind of things. So yeah, I could definitely see it as an easy way to improve neurological drive if we're trying to change for sleep.
Especially with your background.
Yeah,
eye tracking, it makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to try it now. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that existed, but I'm definitely going to try it now.
I started with a couple patients, and I even added into the program I'm working on too. So.
Nice.
That's going to be fun for people coming on.
I liked the analogy that you had brought up here, which was sleep is like your phone's charging system. You don't try harder to charge a phone. You fix the charger, the cable, the outlet, the apps, the temperature, and that's the same with sleep. And so
let's go.
I like that understanding because a lot of people feel the only way to really change sleep is, actually, I don't even know what they think. My guess is they're just trying their hardest to do the simple stuff, which is
all these hacks. Yeah.
Get to bed at a certain time, but also power down some melatonin just to push you into sleep, or take an Ambien. I don't know. Will themselves back to sleep so that they don't have to suffer the consequences. But also, there's just so much more that they could alter that would make such a more drastic change to their sleep. And I think the AI wearable is the hack for that, to make your life so much easier when you're trying to change and measure some of these things. Doc, is there things that you've put on the app, that the question journal part of it, that you can get asked? Are there things you have it help track, or are there things that you are interested in just measuring day to day that it helps you to know where you're at, where you're changing?
Yeah, and that's part of it where I've been dabbling a little bit more in recent. I'm not like crazy consistent like every single day, but at least probably 4 to 6 journals a week. So after, like, when you wake up with Whoop specifically, you wake up, it processes the sleep score and then runs you through a bunch of questions. Yesterday, did you have caffeine? And you can personalize this to you. There's however many
hundreds of questions that you can choose from.
And I'd probably be a little cautious with going hundreds at a time.
But I think I have 10 or 15 maybe.
Yeah, I'm around there
something
too.
Like that.
So whether it's, do you feel like you hydrate? If it says yes, no, it's just tap on either one. And then there's, for some of them, underlying questions. How much ounces of water did you drink? It gets a little bit more specific. I don't stay too specific on those. Another one is, did you watch TV or view electronics before bed or in bed?
That's a big one.
That's one that I've noticed, that if I'm on my phone in bed, sleep score dies down. The next one is definitely going to be, which is a bigger one, feeling stressed throughout the day. Yes, no. That's another one. Down regulation, breathing also help. I know food, nutrition. Do you have late night snack before bed versus maybe an hour or two? I noticed that with the detox in recent that ate dinner, but because it wants to take out sugar and some of the carb cravings, I stopped eating later at night, and I think that's also why it boosts the score up because it helps the metabolism be less
I definitely
chaotic.
know a lot of sleep experts who tell you to refrain from doing later meals. That can also mess with your sleep cycle too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there any others that I didn't talk on that you pay attention to?
Yeah, I think I can try to memorize the ones that I have, but hydration is one.
Yes.
The next would be if I consumed caffeine or not, which is going to be the one that I always track. And then, did I do an ice bath?
Okay.
If I took creatine, if I took electrolytes.
Smart.
What are some other ones? Did I share my bed? Because there are times where I'm traveling and don't sleep as well. So shared bed for me has always been
Okay.
number one, like huge driver. It's always on my monthly report. If I had sex, or if I viewed a screen in bed is another big one. And then if I wore a nose strip. I'm tracking the nose strip, and I'm pissed it's not giving me as big a change as I want it to, because I feel like it's a big one for me.
I think feeling matters almost potentially more.
It's weird how on the AI app, it's not as drastic of a change as I thought it would be for me. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one. I know the research shows those the magnets, those kind of things, they don't really improve quality deep sleep, REM sleep. It just helps improve breathing.
Okay.
Which can then reduce sleep apnea, snoring, which has a positive effect on sleep. But like a drastic change to your REM and deep sleep, I don't think there's enough research on it yet from what I'm seeing. And it didn't really correlate to mine either.
Interesting.
However, what I do notice is I don't feel like crap in the morning, because if I'm mouth breathing, I feel like crap. Like I'm congested, my throat hurts, I'm sore. Plus my significant other is pissed at me. That's another important thing. So I'm looking for more of a positive impact. I only started tracking it recently, so I'm trying to see. You need a good 100 to 150 sleeps on both sides of no plus yes of wearing a nose strip, and I think that's where I want to see after maybe a year. Had it actually made a change or not?
Love that.
But right now it's pretty indifferent. But again, there's so many other factors that could factor into this. I tend to grab the nose strip when I am exhausted. So I don't know if my sleep was just poor from that, and the nose strip variable with that now gets taken into. It's tough to track all those variables. But yeah, those are the other ones that I tend to track.
And the reason why we're bringing some of this up is the awareness factor on maybe certain things that you guys may not pay attention to that can absolutely affect sleep score.
Yep.
And why we've dabbled into it so long and continue coming back to it. Yep. It's that important.
The other two is if I had pain, like a headache that day, or if I have restless leg issues. And so if I had restless legs. What I'm finding though is anytime I drink caffeine, I have restless legs. That was the first thing that I found with my monthly reports.
Interesting. Might be a chemical thing then.
It definitely is. Restless legs is very reactive to caffeine in a lot of patients.
Fascinating.
So trying to improve that.
Key tip for you guys.
But yeah, no, this has been a huge helpful change when tracking sleep. I think it's one of I would say the crucial things that people need to be tracking. I can understand that AI wearables and just other trackers can be anxiety causing, and that's important. We definitely don't want that. But it's also not as difficult as we maybe make it sound. Dr. Jace and I enjoy this a lot, and so we tend to probably put a lot more time and effort into doing something like this. We're scientific in nature, so we love to experiment, we love to learn, and that's a little bit different. But for you, set it to 5 questions, answer them if you want, maybe a few times a week, but the rest is all tracked. You really don't have anything else that you need to do other than just making sure that you're checking the app and seeing changes. There really isn't a lot else that goes into it. Would you agree?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Which that kind of gets us into the layers of sleep.
Yes.
We've talked on some of these in the past, some of which the sleep drive, especially related to the adenosine receptors on anytime you feel like your eyes are starting to close at night or you're starting to get tired, maybe yawning, the adenosine pretty much receptors are telling your body that more or less you need to offload. It pretty much helps you push you into sleep for the most part. So that's where we get into this, what's known as homeostatic drive. To think clearly with this specific concept, think of it as like a pressure tank that fills you when you're awake. And once it gets to a certain threshold, the valves, they start lead to yawning, eyes closing. So it's like almost a silent pressure gauge system, if we will.
And there are definitely ways to increase sleep drive. And then there are ways where you don't feel tired at night.
Yes.
And that could be from the way you sleep wake, but it also could be to the lack of sleep drive and you're just not wanting to sleep because you haven't increased that sleep drive system enough for sleep.
Yes.
I would say blue lights and caffeine later at night would be two ones that I would probably look at right away. Doc, what would be some, maybe even lack of exercise, but what would be some things you would look into increasing sleep drive?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. I can also definitely come back to the nutrition, diet, or food coming into your system. Yeah, because a lot of it will come also back to the circadian rhythm, which is influenced by water, light coming in your eyes, exercise. I feel like with the circadian rhythm, I think that there's a part missing in terms of the emotional, mental status as well involved there. But those are just a few things that definitely, if they're off-regulated, or like even what you said, if you had a fight with your significant other, it's going to ramp the system up and be a little bit more challenging to offload, which then affects this pressure tank, if you will, as well.
I also think people who nap frequently and for long periods, like we talked about. And we put out an episode recently on napping and ways to nap efficiently without maybe it affecting your sleep later in the day. So give that one a look because I think it also helps with what we're talking about here. But yeah, so sleep drive is a big one. Next would be circadian timing, like you were mentioning. Do you want to just hit on some of the things that can improve that area of the body?
Yeah, so really quick, circadian rhythm roughly works within a 24-hour time cycle. It's regulated by, like I said, lights come in the eyes, exercise, food intake, and I still feel like an emotional status of some sort. But it relies on the consistency, and anytime you get up on a consistent basis, it's retraining certain circuits in your brain, thus help communicate with all the other cells in your body. So if you are one of those people that you're a morning lurk to where you're able to get up at the same time with no alarm clock, your circadian rhythm has been training your body for so long that it just naturally fits you into that state, versus people that are more night owls, that you do a lot of work, and I know I fall in the same bucket, can do work late at night, but are able to consistently get to bed at a similar time later at night. And then still wake up in the morning. But
do you feel there's a genetic aspect to that? Do you feel like some people are just more wired to be night owls versus morning lurks?
That's a great question. I think there could be a small part genetic, but I think the environmental, or it's like genes, like genetics. If you activate certain genetics, you're able to, for some people, acclimate much easier. I think it's probably going to be somewhat similar. Like, for example, if we grew up in the 1930s and we had to work for a living, but our main resource and job income, you had to wake up in the morning, we're going to automatically acclimate for our family. It's survival. So I think that will flip genes, and then more.
And there was so much less blue light back in that time.
Oh,
I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see what the changes were in sleep quality versus now, with just how many lights, all the other things too, that just can take away sleep quality.
Yeah, overall, our society appeared to be much healthier than it is today as a whole.
Testosterone in males in the 70s are similar to now in males in the 30s.
Wow.
In their 30s, which is scary.
Incredible.
Very scary.
A little bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's probably not good for another podcast. But Doc, you had a
Yes.
prompt for improving people's sleep-wake cycle that also helped them break apart, maybe like a schedule to lock in their circadian rhythm. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so to help be, the key word is consistent
Yep.
with this. And this, I'm not talking just weekdays or work days. I'm also talking weekends. Key fact on
And that's
that
a big one.
Yeah. It's so hard for everyone. And I get it with life, responsibilities, families, and kiddos maybe in sports. The better that you can get your family on a consistent dinner time, a consistent going to bed or getting in bed,
Right.
trying to fall asleep, and then having the same alarm set every single day. I think that's going to be a huge factor. Obviously, watching some of the food intake late at night is going to be important. Some of the stuff, obviously, we just talked about, but you want to consistently try to create habits around going into sleep and then coming out of sleep. And what that looks like for you is going to be small tweaking over time, over years, learning your system. Some of the AI wearables, why we're bringing this up, is allowing that awareness to learn your system, but then for you to be just as smart to need to adapt or to alter or change. Not just paying attention to the scores that the technology is giving you, but how you feel. I think that goes back hand in hand. A feeling like with the nose strips and breath tape, like you wake up feeling congested without it for some mornings. That feeling, in my opinion, trumps some of the data in a shorter time frame versus maybe a longer time frame. You can collect a little bit more data and see how it works in comparison.
I agree.
But the big thing on that to drive home is consistency.
Yep.
For the most part.
For sure. Doc, if you were going to use AI to improve their sleep-wake cycle, what would be something you could ask AI to help track?
Okay, so take ChatGPT, take Claude AI, take Gronk. Actually, for this, I probably would go ChatGPT in comparison to some of the others. So you would type in, and again, quote, pretend you're my circadian coach. Love that. I wake up at 6 a.m., fill in whatever time works best for you. I train or work out, say 8 a.m., whatever time works best for you. I drink caffeine at 11 a.m. You can see how this goes. Build me a 7-day schedule to lock my rhythm. So simple. And then watch as the prompt spits out the timing that works best for you. You can also add at the end of the prompt, ask me questions to help better the results.
Yeah.
And that's where then
It
gonna
might
get
ask
into
you
a
about
bunch of
nutrition. It might ask you about all the other things that we maybe have been talking about
Yeah.
too.
Blood work, all of that.
I'd be curious to see what it recommends.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. We'll probably have that on the screen.
Sure.
So those that are just listening, revert to the video.
So, Doc, layer 3, this is the most fun.
I'm glad we got this.
Temperature, breath work, cognitive change, pain, autonomic nervous system. So this is where I think we put a lot of episodes out on a lot of these things, trying to improve this as best as we can with these dials is maybe the best way we can put it. So
Love that.
we're talking temperature, cooling your body temperature, breathing, whether that's using cues, breath work, or even increasing breathing efficiency with mouth tape, nose strips, things that we already talked about. Improving pain, because pain is, you and I know, one of the hugest upsets to sleep and stopping someone from sleeping comfortably. So that's why we do what we do. Cognitive change, whether that's you're just ruminating at night, not able to get to sleep, your brain is wired and you're just still not able to bring the sleep drive up, or also try to improve the cognitive change that you're going through at that time. Or autonomic balance, where you are thinking that you're sleeping, but you're so sympathetic dominant that there is not a quality of sleep happening when you're sleeping, and you're not ever feeling refreshed when you wake up. That's a big one.
Well stated.
I would say fight or flight has just been rampant through your body for so long. No matter how much sleep you're getting, you're just stuck in this state. We actually call it a freeze state. you have the fight, flight, or freeze. And so most people who have been in a fight or flight for so long get in a freeze state. And basically their neurological brain waves start to change, become a lot more lower, and we see brain fog, we see lack of refreshness when we wake up. But it's almost like you start to get colder, you're a little bit more removed, isolated, depressed, and low drive. We call it low drive. And so when we would measure people's brains and at Seriset, that's exactly what we would see. We'd see these patients that had this they would just start to wear them out, completely take them apart from so much stress in their life. And so if you just feel like you aren't getting through this rut, I would say that's number 5 would be the area that we need to talk about. So,
That's great.
Doc, when it comes to pain,
Yes.
where does sleep deprivation impact that?
Yeah, there's a few studies related to this one. Now, with sleep deprivation, it's going to more or less it's going to lead to a disconnect between the brain and body, or sometimes tissues, and can cause this misregulation of how you are perceiving certain sensations, certain feelings, movement,
Yep.
potentially temperature regulation. Also, with all these senses, pain fibers are usually increased because of the down regulation from the brain top
Yep.
down. So they're finding in some of these studies that total sleep deprivation can increase the pain sensitivity and also impair like pain modulation, which I mean makes a lot of sense. So if you guys have ever heard of somatic training or somatic awareness of your body, even like if you're just trying to turn your brain off, I know we touched on eye movement.
Yep.
If you're in certain areas of pain, obviously try to get out of positions of pain, but even just to bring your awareness. Let's say, for example, I'll walk you through a slight example. You're laying in your bed. If you can imagine, you're, let's say, on your back, laying face upwards. You may have this right shoulder irritation to where you feel on the front and outside portion of the shoulder. You toss and turn, try to get your arm in the correct spot. Lay down on your back, eyes closed. You can go through some of the eye tracking that we brought up previously, but just even bring your awareness to not the area of pain, but let's start on like, how do your feet feel? Do you feel your body and the bed catching yourself? How does that feel? And then work up the chain, and you can go in many different routes. Go to your neck, the jaw. Does it feel tense? If so, try to relax. Then slowly perceive back to the shoulder. Just notice the discomfort, and just by noticing it without judging it, you're going to start noticing that some of the pain will start to diminish. Then go back into more or less either eye tracking, long exhale breathing to try to get the sleep. But you start the awareness of brain, your interoception from noticing certain states of your body, go to pain, go out of pain, and then try to get into sleep from there. So that would be another fun tool.
Nice.
But yeah, that goes back to the sleep deprivation, trying to get the pain sensitivity under control. Doc, has there been any other studies, and I know we have here, on in terms of like muscle protein synthesis or just even insomnia or can't sleep related to like lower back pain?
Well, yeah, we talked about this on one of our pods about how stress can impact gains in the gym. But we definitely also included how sleep can disrupt the ability to add on muscle, which makes sense. If there was a drug that could be given out to bodybuilders, they would take sleep as that drug. Many of them just mention how important sleep is when they're trying to add on muscle and things like that. But another thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot of overlapping conditions that can come with sleep deprivation, but the main one is with insomnia. That's actually one of the CLPCs in patients with central sensitization issues. So patients that have this disruption of perceived stimulus, basically. These patients have usually been either abused physically or sexually when they were younger, and now is just a plethora of conditions that they have to deal with. Insomnia is one of them. Chronic low back pain is another one of them. But in this study, it showed that insomnia may casually increase low back pain risk, but I also see it as just these chronic overlapping pain issues can start to increase the amount of them, the worse that your body goes unregulated. So there's about, I want to say there's more than 10 now, but some patients who don't get this treated or managed can have all 12, 15 of them. Wow. Some have 6, some have only 3. But you'll see over time, if it's not managed, these patients will start accumulating more and more of these overlapping pain conditions. But sleep deprivation is going to be a huge driver in making a lot of these worse. And that comes with the insomnia that they eventually can get. Definitely, sleep is a huge predictor of a lot of disease. Right now, we can dive right into what this Stanford-led team published when it came to just how important sleep tracking is. So in the Journal of Nature Medicine, for the website or app called Sleep FM, and it's a multimodal sleep foundation model. It was trained on almost 600,000 hours of polysomnography from 65,000 participants.
Big study.
And it predicted risk of over 130 conditions just from sleep signals. So basically, they had the sleep lab signals using EEG, ECG, respiratory, all these other metrics. Yeah. And they trained the platform on what this looked like. And then it basically learned to predict patterns of future disease from all of this data-rich environment that it was given. And I think this was a great statement, but the future annual physical may include sleep-derived risk forecasts, or the future annual physical may include a sleep study. And it should include a sleep study.
Yes.
And it also should include wearing one of these every day, because it should be a prescription we should be giving patients so that we can understand what predictions and forecasts of their health is bound to happen if they don't take care of their sleep, along with taking care of themselves.
Well stated.
Yeah.
And then that goes back to what dial do you need to turn, going back to temperature regulation, your mind racing, food consumption at night, all that other stuff. That's a big study. That actually just came out this year, like recent. I can't imagine what other studies are going to come out.
I know. I can't wait for AI-driven studies where we can just gather so much more information and use that to predict things or understand things. But
love that.
All right. So, Doc, we want to end here with a 7-day sleep control experiment for patients to understand how to sift through the next 7 days if they want to make some changes.
Beautiful. I love this. So we're going to break this down into steps, make this personalized to you. So as you're following here, we'll have kind of the text on the screen so you can start typing out your own prompt specifically. And then we'll go through a little bit of a copy and paste example. And so you can see what it spits out via AI. We'll probably do it on ChatGPT. Step 1, build your sleep dashboard. Now this is, you can add so much more context to this. The more context, the better. We will probably always say related to AI for the most part. So start off by what to track daily. And this is just 2 minutes a day. What time are you getting into bed and what time are you getting out of bed? How's your sleep quality? How do you feel, like 10 being the best, 0 being the worst? Do you wake up at night? If so, is there a reason because you have to go to the bathroom? Are you in pain? Is your mind racing? Do you feel, is it a temperature? Are you too warm? It's most common.
One thing I tracked too, I didn't say, was if you get a nightmare, if I get a nightmare.
Ooh,
and so that also, I think, as far as, do you feel like a lot of patients sometimes suffer from night terrors or really bad, a lot of nightmares frequently. One thing we could also see is tracking that to also see what's worse, what's better.
Yeah, or if you do any like sleepwalking, if you have someone that can help you tell you if you sleepwalk, obviously.
For sure.
Next, you can get into caffeine. What time do you consume caffeine and the dosages? Alcohol consumed throughout the day, yes, no. I'm sure you can go to the timing with that. Workout training intensity. Did you work on a lighter session than you normally do, or did you push yourself? Morning, did you get outside in some normal light, or were you just more laying in bed for periods of time? So step 1, start tracking all this. And like I said, more information, the better. You can also use some of the wearables, like for example, Whoops, and taking some of the sleep scores where it has your heart rate variability, the trends, and then put that information into the same chat or the same prompt, but as a document added in. Now, step 2, pick one control knob to turn. You don't have to do everything. This goes back to all the ones we talked on previously. So, for example 1, pattern A, can't fall asleep at night. Do you have to turn the temperature dial to go, maybe it's a cooler environment and maybe add in more layers? Or is it the cognition of, is your like mind racing? Is it one of those where you just got to have to turn off your mind? Okay, maybe try with those 2 dials, 10-minute brain dump, cooler room, going to bed. Next example is, do you wake up anywhere from 2 to 4 a.m. and maybe can't go back to sleep? Then you would want to get into sleep chemistry, blood sugar stability, whether it's eating earlier in the evening, not scrolling on your phone at night, and then getting on a consistent sleep-wake cycle.
Love that.
And then another example, you wake up in pain throughout the night. Anytime someone wakes up in pain, you probably want to see a physician because there's more likely some underlying stuff.
Yes.
But it goes back to pain modulation and or inflammation inputs.
Yep.
Which then you start thinking about downshifting, regulation like long exhale breathing, going to bed, certain positions, anti-inflammatory diets and whatnot with that. Is there any others that you can think of related to those, Doc, at all?
I'd say those are pretty common. You can also mention if you have a tendency to not want to fall asleep early. Don't feel the need to fall asleep early. Maybe low sleep drive, or I only feel like I'm tired at 1 in the morning. Like maybe there's some other things that it can do to help increase sleep drive. In the short term, it's going to be tough to get there, I'm sure, because you're going to have to practice getting to bed earlier, and it might take some time. But that could also be one that it might help you make improvement changes too.
Love that.
Yep.
Love that. And then we're going to get into step 3, to how you can incorporate all this into ChatGPT, and then also ask it to, quote, identify your top 2 sleeping disruptors, or top 3, top 5, either or. Suggest 2 interventions. Predict which interventions has the highest leverage to help you improve sleep, and create a 7-day schedule. So the prompt looks like this, and this is just an example. Here is 7 days of my sleep data, and you have a list that you've been tracking for, maybe it's 1 day, maybe it's a few days and more data. Like we said, the better. Sleep, bed, caffeine, training, waking up, moods, etc. Analyze patterns, identify my top 2 disruptors, and design a 7-day experiment, changing only 1 variable at a time. I think that's incredible.
That's a good one.
Give me a hypothesis, intervention, success metrics, and what to do if night 3 fails.
Nice.
So smart. So they have a barrier in place that focus on 1 at a time, so you're not overloading yourself. So you can make simple steps, simple changes. And then it also had you bring up, if you start failing at night 3, what to do next.
Like a pattern predictor.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if
That's
you
beautiful.
have 1 bad night, just understand that's just noise right now. We don't have a lot of information quite yet, but 3 bad nights, that's now giving us some signals. And then obviously 7 bad nights, now we're trending into poor sleep efficiency. Now we need to start thinking about some ways to change that. So just remember,
Absolutely.
that's how we're going to be interpreting these results as you continue to move forward. As you've been doing this now for maybe 100 days, that is where we are going to shine. And that's how much power we're going to have to actually change the major, let's say, leverage changers of sleep, is when we have all that data.
Beautiful.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Now, AI can help you with a lot of this, but the wearable is just so much easier.
Yeah.
So we really do recommend you can do all this, and you can use ChatGPT. I think that'll be helpful. But there are other software and wearable trackers out there that can save a lot of your time.
Yeah. Time's going to be a huge factor for most people.
Yes.
Doc, let's get into one of these interesting games, the AI sleep coach versus human coach.
Okay.
And I challenge you guys to try this, and I want to know your feedback. So let's say, example, for a person that maybe can't sleep, we're going to put that into ChatGPT, and we're going to see what certain things come out of it. But without us even seeing the results, we want to see what would we expect that AI would spit out, but then also what are potentially certain things that it could be missing. For example, for this one, let's say an individual is 20 years old, their mind's racing, they can't fall asleep, they're on their phone at night, maybe they're in graduate school and they just feel like they're getting fatigued and feeling drained. I would ask ChatGPT, what are certain things that can improve this person from what information you have?
Okay.
So I would assume, originally thinking off the cusp, that it's going to start breaking down into some of the key topics I brought up of school, graduate school, probably high stress, more than likely scrolling at the phone at night, just common trends that you typically see. How is the nutrition, diet, and does that feel regulated for them? Also probably personal life as well, dating, not dating, or do they feel supported more or less?
Sure.
And I'm sure you can get into a bunch of other things, but from there, I think the difference and the key distinction I think we want to bring up is the prompt that you give it versus what it spits out. If you don't have the context, it's going to be limited on the results.
For sure.
Is there certain things that you would start thinking of with that individual?
For that individual, I would already predict that if they're consuming high amounts of stimulants to help them study, that's going to be reduced. I want them to reduce that. If they are wired to perform and study and compete, they're probably eating at odd hours of the night to try to change and improve that cycle. If they're wired at night and they're not able to get to bed, they've probably been doing some high cognitive drive effort towards bed, and it's tough to wind down after that. So breath work, guided meditation, some way to help them increase or bring down, I should say, that neurological drive that they just came out of. That was always difficult for me, especially after I was like studying heavily before bed. It was tough for me to fall asleep because that drove me to focus and be very intentional, and it took away my sleepiness.
Okay.
I would also say that they are probably looking at a screen before bed, and so to remove that's going to be very crucial. If they're grad student, they're probably going to bed at different parts of the night, different parts. So trying to improve the sleep-wake cycle as consistently as possible is going to be another big driver. And then if they're sedentary most of their day and they're not actually working out, they're not actually doing other things to improve all-around health, like you mentioned, nutrition, things like that, to improve, increasing those aspects of their life. I would say that's a good start to dissecting a patient who's got those habits.
Yeah. I think it's also different when you see the individual and have that either a conversation. That's a whole nother variable that AI may not pick up. Like, for example, like what if that individual is also maybe like injured or in a sling, but they're able to fall asleep?
For sure.
Knowing that there's also an injury taking place that will also affect sleep cycles as well.
For sure.
That's a whole nother thing.
For sure. But I would say that's a pretty common archetype of a person who's having trouble sleeping. There's going to be so much of just that one archetype. I think a lot of people are struggling right there. That's a very common archetype, I would say. So, but yeah, I want to know how you guys are tracking your sleep. Do you guys have wearables? I don't have much experience with the Oura Ring, but I am curious to see how you guys used it or seen its outcomes. Also, are there things that we haven't talked about that you've found that dramatically changes your sleep, improves your sleep? Of course, there are supplements and other things out there that we can talk about too, which we didn't really get into because we're still just trying to give you the foundational stuff. But please share and comment below on what you've found has helped you. We are always very interested in that. And then as always, please share and subscribe this video. We hope that it can get to the people who want to change their sleep, improve their life. This is a big one. I would say this is the most important when it comes to improving your health. As always, guys, until next time, you have a great day.
Disclaimer: the content provided in this health podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast is solely at your own risk. The creators and hosts of this podcast are not responsible for any actions or decisions you may take based on the information presented.
Thanks for joining us on The Functional Code. For more evidence-based health insights, subscribe, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, your journey to a healthier you begins with understanding the functional code. Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and embrace the science of living well.